Hi, welcome back to Independent Blazers. I'm Dan, coming to you from Hua Hin, Thailand. Today, I'd like to talk about one of the reasons why I left the San Francisco Bay Area, the place I was born and raised. But before I do, please hit like and subscribe and share. Also, please hit the notification bell. It helps the algorithm. Okay, today I will discuss of why I left the Bay Area, and among the reasons in this section is the dangers. Since 1991, my world began to change. I began to see different parts that I had not seen before. I didn't know what was going on, but I felt afraid. Among the things that opened my eyes was my sixth grade teacher telling the class that there'd been a shooting at night school at a certain high school. She was mortified. She was trying to keep her composure, but she was shaking. At her alma mater, a shooting had occurred. And yet, things like this were starting to happen left and right, and too many middle-class people were in denial. People coming to school with bruises and all that, knowing they'd been jumped, people not wanting to go to school anymore because they were too afraid. I didn't know what to make of that. Unfortunately, too many middle-class people denied it, and I almost wondered if I was delusional or not. So I thought maybe things would get better, but no, they didn't. The Bay Area has the worst homeless problem, and that's an understatement. The Bay Area is number one for smash and grabs in the United States. The fact that shoplifters cannot be prosecuted if they steal less than $950 worth of merchandise, that should set off alarm bells. In fact, there's a lot of places you can't even park your car because your catalytic converter may be stolen. What kind of world is that? To make matters worse, Freeway 880 over in Oakland and Hayward and all, there were lots of shootings, random shootings from the overpasses at random cars. I remember I was talking with family members once who were coming back from a trip. They said, yes, 880 would be faster, but we'll take 101 where it's safer. And they were saying it so casually, as if they'd been used to it. When I was younger, people would tell me how great the Bay Area was, even though I didn't see it. I hope that one day I would wise up and see it the way that they saw it and fully embrace and enjoy it. Instead, it looks like they're starting to see it the way I have always seen it, at least since the age of 11 and a half. Now, another reason why I left the Bay Area was because of the cost of living. When I was a teenager and young adult, that's when Silicon Valley really began to take off. On top of that, no new houses were being built, so the housing prices became more expensive. But that's external. Internal, what's also my fault is I was a bit of a slacker back then. So they went hand in hand. Cost of living just became too much to bear. Now, it's hard to say what life would have been like for me had I worked harder and been a better student. But now, it's beyond outrageous. Now San Francisco is the second most expensive city after New York. The cost of living there is too high. You can't get by on a low-wage job. You can't get by on blue-collar jobs or anything. People often need 3 or 4 jobs just to make ends meet. People are commuting as far as Modesto, which is a good 2 hours away from San Francisco or the Bay Area. I hope things will change for the better, but I don't see it happening anywhere near in the future. Another factor I forgot to mention about the Bay Area was the environment and weather. Okay, I lived on the peninsula part, so it felt like a small place with limited land but a lot of people. But let's forget that part for now. The weather itself often got to me. I do not like weather that's constantly foggy, windy, and cold, but some people do. I've always loved going for drives to warmer places. I always liked it when we would take trips inland in California and enjoy the hot summer weather in the mountains. But anyway, I remember also taking my first trip to Hawaii when I was 10 going on 11. I absolutely loved that weather. I'd never experienced tropical weather before, but I fell in love with it. But some people love the fog. Some people love wearing a jacket in the summer. I don't. I would rather be sweating than shivering. But to give a counter argument on both the weather and the land, I've always loved going through drives along the coast. Pacifica and those coastal towns on the way to Santa Cruz, I've just always loved them. Ever since I was a teenager, I looked for excuses to drive on them. So that is a major exception. But otherwise, I like being in the tropics like I am now. That's all I have to say. Another reason I didn't fit in the Bay Area, I was never a sports fan. And sports are an essential part of the Bay Area and life and the lifestyle there. At the same time that I wasn't interested, I was also never very athletic. I don't know what my life would have been like had I been athletic and into sports. Everything would be different, I think. I was so not into sports that I had no idea of who most of the team players were. And if, say, a team lost, say the A's beat the Giants, someone might come and try to taunt me, and I would just shrug it off. Sometimes it made people angry that I wasn't into sports and that I wasn't upset when they would try to taunt me about it. But another mindset I've always had that's been different is politics. I've never leaned too far left nor too far right. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the Bay Area, they lean too far to the left, as too many people in military Sea Lift Command lean very far to the right. One says they're liberals, the other say they're for freedom, yet neither seem to accept independent thought much. And it was in both places I was labeled as the opposite. So there's a bit more to it. Growing up, I would see self-contradictory ideologies, and when I would question them and not be satisfied with the answer, I'd get answers like, "You just don't get it," or "You and I just aren't on the same page." Now, to be fair, I had very similar answers when I worked for Military Sea Lift Command. With a bunch of retired Navy veterans, some leaned ultra-right, I'd point out contradictions in their ideologies and their beliefs, and they would say, "You just don't understand because you're a commie liberal. You don't understand because you hate freedom." The mindset I learned is so similar to that of which I grew up with. It's just on the other side of the political spectrum. Now I'll say some very good things about the Bay Area. For one thing, when I was a child, I was between three different bubbles. My parents' house, the lady who watched me, which was near my school, she was like my second mother, and my grandparents' house, Redwood City. Although all three were in working class neighborhoods, they felt like the safest places on earth, and I was oblivious to what was only miles away, a few miles away in some cases. I also admit that because I grew up in the Bay Area, it drove my interest for cultures. Because I met people of so many different backgrounds, I wanted to know more. It is the reason why I wanted to go and travel this world, which I have done. Ever since I was a little child, I've read about other cultures. I've taken an interest in art, languages, history. There's still lots of places I love to go hiking in the Bay Area, whether it's in Pacifica or down the coast, and places I have yet to go, such as Muir Woods. Also, for San Francisco itself, the three things I absolutely love about that city is the architecture, the hills, and the variety of restaurants. There is a lot of hidden gems still. There's still a lot of great history in San Francisco. I just wish it could be cleaned up and fixed up. I wish the Bay Area was even close to how I envisioned it as a small child. If it were as great as I envisioned it when I was a small kid, I don't think I ever would have left the place, despite the weather. As of now, I want to express my concern and say San Francisco Bay Area is not a place I would recommend people move to at this very time, even if you can afford it. The dangers outweigh the joys. That's all I have to say for now. Please like and subscribe. I'm Dan from Independent Blazers.